Imagine you are standing in a cafe. The employee looks at you and asks a very simple question. Would you like anything else? You understand every single word, but when you open your mouth to reply, everything stops. Your mind suddenly fills with questions. Should I say nothing more? Is "that's all" polite enough? What if my pronunciation sounds weird? The silence stretches. You start to feel nervous. Finally, just to escape the awkwardness, you mumble, "No, finished." The employee understands, but you walk away feeling disappointed. Then, exactly 10 seconds after the conversation is over, the perfect response appears in your head. "No, thank you, that's all." Why does the right answer always arrive too late? This happens to almost every language learner. Going blank doesn't mean you don't know enough English. The knowledge is right there in your head. The problem is simply that your brain can't find and pull out that information fast enough in the middle of a conversation. We often think of language as one big ability, but understanding English and speaking English are actually two very different skills. Listening feels comfortable because the other person is doing the work for you. They give you the words, and your brain only has to recognize them. Speaking requires much more effort. In a split second, you have to choose an idea, find the correct words, build the grammar, and pronounce everything out loud, all while watching the listener's reaction. Think of your English knowledge as a massive, fully stocked library. When you hear someone speak, they hand you the exact title of a book. Your brain goes right to the shelf and says, "Yes, I recognize that." But when you speak, nobody gives you the title. You have to figure out which book you need, run to the right section, and open the exact page all by yourself. You might already have a huge collection of words stored away, but if your brain's internal search system is too slow, you won't be able to grab those words during a live conversation. One of the main reasons this search system slows down is because much of your English is passive. These are the words and phrases you understand when you see them, but you never actually use them yourself. It is like owning a toolbox full of tools you recognize. You know what a wrench is when you see it, but if you've never practiced picking it up and using it, you won't know how to reach for it when a pipe suddenly bursts. The second major roadblock is the habit of mental translation. This happens when you create a long, difficult sentence in your first language and then try to turn it into English word for word. Look at this map. Translating every single word is like trying to drive across a tangled, crowded city just to reach a store that is one street away. By the time you find the words and check the grammar, the conversation has moved on. Instead of taking the long route, you can strip your idea down to its most basic meaning. Rather than explaining a complicated traffic problem, you can take a straight path and simply say, "There was a lot of traffic." Trying to perfectly translate every deep thought into a second language is exactly what stops you from speaking smoothly. The final roadblock is the fear of making a mistake. Many learners are afraid of using the wrong grammar or sounding strange. This fear makes you try to build a perfect sentence in your head before you ever open your mouth. It is exactly like pressing the gas pedal and the brake at the same time. You are working incredibly hard, but you stay completely still. Compare this to a learner who uses simple English and makes mistakes. They might use the wrong verb, but they keep talking. They keep the conversation moving forward. That second learner improves much faster. You don't get better by knowing the most rules. You get better by choosing to keep communicating, even when it isn't perfect. So how do we help your brain find words faster? The first step is to stop trying to speak in long paragraphs. When someone asks you a question, start with just one very simple sentence. "I like it. It saves time." Get the first idea out. The second step is to stop building every sentence from zero. Use ready-made patterns like "in my experience" or "the main reason is" to give your brain a head start. You take a known block and you lock it right into your idea. The third solution is to practice finding words from your memory without any help. This is like a gym workout for your brain's search system. You can practice this with the 1-minute exercise. Pick a simple question, like, "What did you do yesterday?" Answer it with one sentence. Then try 3 sentences. Finally, speak for 1 full minute without stopping. If you make a mistake, leave it and keep going. Watching videos builds your knowledge, but only the physical act of speaking out loud builds the speed you need to use that knowledge. Of course, your mind will still go blank sometimes. When this happens, you don't need to panic, and you don't have to suffer in silence. Instead, use an emergency phrase to buy yourself some time. Just say, "Give me a second," or "Let me think." These phrases aren't a sign of failure. Native speakers use them all the time. We constantly pause and search for the right word. Taking control of the pause stops the panic. It gives your brain those extra few seconds it needs to find the English words you already know. Let's go back to that cafe. You are standing at the counter and the employee asks, "Would you like anything else?" This time, you don't overthink it. You use a simple pattern you've practiced before. You smile and say, "No, thank you, that's all." The answer is short and natural. You will notice that the feeling of confidence rarely shows up before you speak. It usually arrives after you successfully say that first simple sentence. You already know enough English to communicate. You just need to trust your simple sentences. For more examples and calm listening practice, check out the full podcast on Daily Easy English Talks. And tell me in the comments, what stops you from speaking most often? Translating in your head, forgetting words, or the fear of mistakes?